Hey, you guys, good evening. Hi, Chandrea. Hey, Derek, good question. I was just sitting here thinking about how fortunate we are to be sitting in a space where it feels relatively peaceful right now. That's what I'm feeling. Hi, Ari. It feels pretty quiet, pretty peaceful. Spent the majority of the day outside in the yard and it felt good after a few days of rain, so that's kind of where I'm at right now. And hope you guys are doing well. Yeah, Ari, so if there's a lot of feelings that you're getting in your wrists, I don't know if you were on last night, but I was giving the kind of go-to wrist release. So what happens is there's two tendons on the outside of your thumb. These can get really tight and everything, all that weight until you're really pulling plank and down dog through your legs. A lot of that weight can come down into a, relatively small joint like your wrists. And so what you do is you put your hands out in front of you, palms facing up, and then you bring your thumbs in towards the palms of your hands and curl your fingers over your thumbs. Hey, there you might already start to feel it, and you're just giving yourself a gentle squeeze on your thumbs, and then if you want a little bit more, start to turn your knuckles in towards each other. And you can soften your chin, and then you're just letting these two tendons on the outside of the thumb expand a little bit. And do this for 30 to 60 seconds. And you can work it in throughout your day, and that'll keep opening up the gate of the wrist, and then you just release it. You don't want to hold it too long. You just release it and bring your fingers in and then extend your fingers out. Right? That, and then of course the muscles in the forearms. So you can kind of knead your thumb into your opposite forearm and start to work that. When you're placing your hands on the mat in plank or down dog, as opposed to just flattening. See, if you flatten the hand, you jam the heel of the hand into the floor, and then you're putting all of that deep flexion into your wrist. So we've all got a little bit different way that our bones are structured. And so if you, just move the hand forward a little bit, and then instead of flattening the heel of the hand, claw the mat with your fingertips. And it's going to create some more space in your wrist and use more of the muscles in your upper arm. So hopefully that gives you something to play with intuitively and just to kind of work some of those sensations out. But, the other thing is you're practicing a lot. And so, not doing some of those planks, coming down to your knees, right? Taking a moment in tabletop instead of down dog. Listen to your body. You don't have to push it and you don't have to force it, especially as you're really working to get those planks and those down dogs, like I was saying, to come back into your legs. The majority of the strength in those poses are in your legs and your inner thighs, but those can be some of the trickiest muscles to wake up. Hope that helps. Anybody else, if you have any questions, please. Gives us something to do while we're hanging out. We got about 7 minutes until class, and guaranteed anything you may ask is going to feed many, many others, including myself. And we can never be reminded enough of, how we're breathing and how we're positioning ourselves in yoga, becoming more aware, more awake. And so any question is great. Hey, cousin. Happy early Easter as well. Cool, Ari. Thank you. And so I think last night we were cool on the buffering. I think we may have worked something out here at the house with an internet booster that we're unplugging now during classes. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But if it does and you get snagged up in the buffering, just toggle to, you've already brought yourself to your mat, and just go to another recorded class from, now you can even go back probably a week and you may remember certain things, but for the most part, these practices move through you. You're not meant to download and store all the information, and so you could pick up another class and just take that one if you're getting too much buffering. Yeah, Ari, so that sharp shooting, when you come forward into the flexion, perhaps, it's probably a bit of inflammation in the wrist. So this is not something that you want to stretch, right? It's not that you need more flexibility. It's a tenderness. Think of like a red hot candy. You putting that in your mouth and then you feel the heat. That's what's going on in that part of your wrist. So it's inflamed. And so you want to induce the anti-inflammatory effect. Epsom salt baths are great and to soak the body in. It's one way. Heat is another way. If you have a heating pad, go ahead and wrap it up around that wrist or whatever part of your body is feeling it. And the heat should help the inflammation go down. Hi, Biz. I did the wrong thing because I didn't ask the questions when I was first starting to practice, and instead of taking a break in a pose or modifying, my wrists were killing me. Like I think everybody else, when you're practicing a lot, you're really getting into it. And what I did is I took a yoga strap. They have these at most studios, and I was like, oh, I'll just brace it so that I can keep going. This is coming from a athletic background. I played football through college, and I took the yoga strap and I just started wrapping it around my wrist, kind of all the way up my forearm, and so that my wrist couldn't get into that deep flexion and where I'd feel that sensation. Long story short, that wasn't a great approach. Kind of worked through it. The body adjusts, and remember, when your body inflames, that is your body's natural way of healing itself, the anti-inflammatory effect. So, right, it's actually healing you, right, as you're waking things up and learning more and becoming aware. Great, Biz. I'm glad. Hi, Tanya K. Yes, Downtown Vegan Crew. It's been great. I think it was almost a year ago. I tried vegan several years ago, but a year ago, it was April, and I started it again. I was vegetarian for 7 years prior and pescatarian for another couple years before that. So, and really had been without meat, but then it was kind of a practice and a process, and to eventually get to feeling like I could explore veganism in a mindful way. So I feel like that's been a pretty good blessing right now, in just feeling lighter and not packing in things that will maybe add to the inflammation or add to the stress or whatever that might be. In about a minute or so, you guys, I'm going to start the music on the Earbuds Music app, High PG. Somebody asked today, is Earbuds an app? It is a totally separate application from the App Store that you download. It's not like the earbuds that you put into your ears. It's an actual application. So, and sorry for any confusion there. And it's a great way to follow along to the playlist that I'm streaming. If you don't have that, you can go on Spotify and follow my account, Joe Komar, and then you'll see the playlist and for the class tonight. And you would just start that when I start mine, and we'll be relatively in the same place. All right, wishing us all the best on the buffering side of things. In this case, if you fall into a pose and you're like, where did he go? Eventually I'll come back. Just listen to my voice, have your blocks and your pillows and anything that you can use to pad yourself. And I hope you all have a great is relative, but I hope you all have an experience that opens you up in some way, whether it's your body or your mind or both, your spirit. Your heart can always get bigger. And so enjoy this. Starting the playlist now. If you're coming along on Spotify, go ahead and start it. Mardana, what's up, buddy? Nice to see you. I know, right? Saturday night detox, Sunday night detox, Friday night detox. It's happening. We're doing it. Good place to be, and you still got a night afterwards if you want to. And once you get your volume set on the music and the video, go ahead and lie down onto your back, please. And making your way into Shavasana with your arms by your sides and your palms facing up. You approach Shavasana with softness and kindness. Especially if you're feeling a little bit sore, let yourself be sore. Let parts of your body come to the forefront of your mind. And you will observe all of it, no matter what it is, physically, mentally, emotional, or spiritual. And take a breath or two, let out a sigh. It expands, and then how your belly and your diaphragm really, if you go underneath your belly, it expands and contracts, and that's the primary muscle that you're using to breathe. All right, from your Shavasana, everybody bend your legs so that your feet are flat. And let your knees knock in towards each other, and then take a slower breath and let your belly fill up one more time. And on your exhale, you can release your belly completely and take your right arm up over your head and roll onto your right side, and so you come into the fetal position. And rest your head into your bicep, curl your knees up towards your chest. You find a place on your right side, let your belly release. So your left hip is stacked on top of your right. You feel any weight that you're holding on to in the back of your jaw begin to soften your tongue. And begin to let go here. Fetal position. And this pose can actually invite you to be connected into your infancy. Infancy of mind draws us back into this very beautiful biological component of the embryonic state. We use the hot room when we're at the studio as a kind of symbolized way of connecting to that infancy. Like before we entered the world, we all existed inside of our mother's womb. And I'm not bringing this up to necessarily strike a remembrance or a relationship or the significance of attaching into your actual mother. I'm just taking you to a place in where you can kind of drown out the experiences up to this point. The experiences that you've attached to, and so many experiences in your subconscious and that you don't even remember, but they did happen. But to draw you to your infancy and where you can kind of let all of that go. And really when we talk about curiosity or being open and through our curiosity in yoga, it's saying like basically for the first 4, even 5 years of your life, you didn't know shit. And you were getting to know everything and you were interacting with everything and everyone in an unbiased way. You had no preconceived notions. And you had no discipline, you had no basis and for a belief even. You just simply interacted, and your energy bounced off others' energy. You bounced off the world in this way, and just like our children are doing right now. And so when we talk about curiosity, it's coming from a place of curiosity with that light switch turned on. And versus being curious about what you think you want to be curious about. And let's use your left hand on the mat and make our way into a child's pose with your knees wide. I'll join you there. And if you want any padding in your knees, near underneath your bum, go ahead and place that. And when you come into your child's pose, and just under standing, there's flexion and extension. That's an easy way to describe and what's going on with your joints. And so your ankles are extended, toes pointed back. Your knees are flexed. You're drawing the body together. Your hips are then also flexed, and with your torso coming over in between your thighs. And then as you start to bring your chest down and rest your forehead down, your shoulders are also flexed, and with your arms over your head. The elbows and wrists are extended, and so you've got these bookends of extension. But then 3 of the major joints in between, and so you're in a pretty deep state of flexion. The idea to soften with your breath. And you relax into the stillness of the pose, because flexion will certainly have you feeling something. You can draw things up, it can take the mind and try to drag you out of the pose. And so for the hour that we have here together tonight, even if you were to fall asleep, I simply encourage you to stay on your mat for this hour. And if your forehead won't easily come down onto the ground, you can always place a pillow or a blanket and give your forehead something to rest on so that you can relax your face. And really begin to surrender the weight of your body to gravity. And say in this practice, in the opposite of our flow, without focus, without drive, without motivation. And that's why it's called yin versus yang, the opposite.
reason why we're presenting the practice as opposites is so that you can explore the center, your center of your practice, and without comparing it to anybody else's practice. So, and take the trip, enjoy the ride. You got on the train, so stay on the train until we get to the final stop tonight. As you continue to surrender the weight of your body into the mat, there is no guarantee, and so it's only speculation to say that something that starts out fairly intense is going to get more intense. Actualized, you might find that the intensity lessens as the body opens up more. And so as you release the grip, the body thinking that it knows where it's going to go, and if you just simply let it fall, it actually might become more spacious, and you might experience less sensation as you sit in the pose longer. So you never know. Let's take about one more minute in our child's pose, please. And give yourself a couple deeper breaths here. As you're doing that, you can gently rock on your forehead. You massage the space that is your brow. In the center of your forehead, go side to side a couple times. As you bring your forehead back to center, let's slowly bring your hands in towards your knees. And then go ahead and roll yourself up and so that you're sitting onto your shins. And you'll feel this soften, and so your shoulders are going to go into extension from flexion. And you meet yourself in the middle with your head above your heart and the light line to your spine. And you can relax your jaw, close your eyes, and feel a little bit of the rebound here. And with your eyes relaxed, keeping your jaw soft, and you can bring your eyes back into your room. You slide your hands forward onto the mat. And then let's release from the knees. Bring your right foot forward into a lunge. You can put extra padding underneath your left knee by rolling your mat from the side edge, lifting the knee and then setting it back down. You could also put a pillow or a towel under your left knee. And then we're going to come up, and so that both of your hands are resting on your right thigh. And so even though you're coming up with your torso, it will take a little bit of stabilizing in your body. Just trust your front heel. Humble your chin so we're not trying to express and lift the chin. Just let your chin settle into your chest. And everywhere else that you can be coming into this lunge from, take all of that away. And let gravity bring your pelvis forward and down. And so that's how we're going to create in this position in the lunge. And again, your chin can be down towards your chest. Likely you're going to feel some little wobbles. Your body's figuring it out and how to balance them, but as little strength as possible. And just let this weight come down into your pelvis and taking you further and further into the lunge. It's easy to hold this one up in your shoulders, and bring a conscious effort to letting your elbows soften beside. A little sensitivity in your left kneecap, that's normal. And we're not here as long as many of the poses, so go ahead and settle where you are. And trust if you can feel secure in your balance, and you're welcome to close your eyes, but you don't have to. And keep your breath nice and natural. And you'll feel it as your body responds. And your right leg is going to continue to bend a little bit more. And sensations may increase in through your left hip crease, in front of your thigh.
Keep the chin down, jaw relaxed. About 1 more minute here, please. And trying to bring a stretch on, and the only thing that you're feeling is the weight of gravity applying itself through your body in this position. If your eyes are closed, and you can softly bring them back into your space, and then take a deeper breath. And on your exhale, go ahead and sigh, and then bring your hands back down onto the ground. Nice and easy, start to bring your hips back. And slide your right foot behind you. And untuck any padding from your left knee if you had that supported. And remove any props if you have them still in between your feet. And feel your low back on the right side. And feel the sensations in your body here. A little bit. And from here, go ahead and crawl both of your knees over towards the right side edge of your mat. And so bring your knees together, you're hugging the right side edge of your mat, and you're just going to roll down onto your outer left hip. And so your legs are like in a little sideways chair. And right ankle stacked on top of your left, knees in line with your hips, and then 90 degrees going down your shins. And you may want to bring a pillow or a prop underneath your torso. And what we'll do is we'll come down onto our left elbow first. And keep the outer left hip heavy. And then bring your right elbow down. And so it's in line with your left. And you're going to just let the twist and work itself through. Little by little, as you feel the exhales, and the compression is going to work itself in a little bit deeper, but don't worry about making it deep. And no doubt this one can have a tendency to really get you feeling the grip or the stress in your neck. Just let your chin bow down. And hopefully, if you're not feeling this in your rib cage rotation, you're probably feeling it in your outer hips because they're tighter. So either outer hips or through the rib cage rotation, both are fine. You resist the urge and to just lie your chest down onto the ground, avoiding the twist. You're good in the shape. Keep the head heavy. And release the mind of its focus. And sit. This is your meditation. In translation, to be relatively still. And take all the assumptions away. It's not that your mind needs to be still just because you're willing to be still in a posture. In many ways, meditation, the mind is moving. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do.
And for our purposes here, be the observer. Without taking notes, I don't want you to be a student. Like I said at the beginning, I really don't want you to remember any of this intellectually in your memory bank. It's all about us being present in the poses while we're in the poses and letting it happen. And for you flexy, bendy people, it's actually way more productive to stay on your elbows than, like I was saying, just flopping down onto your chest. When you see yoga as the internal perspective of self-realization, it really has nothing to do with the way your body looks and how flexible you are. And so you could see, how the illusion of the practice of yoga gets us thinking a certain way, and versus developing this sense of what it actually is. And relax the jaw. Stay with me about one more minute in this shape, please. You really soften your chin and then take a nice big deep breath in. And on the exhale and the release, and you might feel your twist go just a little bit deeper. And keeping your head as heavy as you possibly can. And start to come out the way you came in, back to your right hand. And then come back up onto your left hand. And for the sake of the release, and let's bring your feet all the way around in front of you. And then go ahead and lie down onto your back. And coming into Shavasana. And the release of the twist, and you'll feel some space and neutrality through your spine. Decompression is the whole idea around the detoxification, and the way that you're detoxifying is actually through the breath itself. And when you take your exhales, and feel your body letting go here. I don't know about you, but sometimes when I'm sitting in the rebounds of the poses, there's waves of emotion. And they don't necessarily mean a specific thing. You're not getting sad about something in particular, but you just feel emotion or emotional.
Allow yourself to feel that if it arrives, if it shows up. And let's stay lying on your back here to release your outer right hip flexor. Bend both of your legs. And then take your left ankle, cross it onto your right thigh like a figure 4. You scoot your hips over to the right side edge of your mat. And then use the weight of your left foot. Let your knees come down towards the left side. So the inner edge of your right foot is on the ground. And then you should be able to feel the light stretch into your outer hip flexor, the TFL muscle. You could put a light interlace to your fingers and then let them rest on the right side of your rib cage. And shoulders heavy, jaw soft. And light eyes, relaxed jaw. And simple being here. Simple being. And there should be little, if anything, and that is complicating this moment right now. And yet, if something is there, complication, acknowledge it. And be aware of it. And be the observer of it. And stay with me here about 1 more minute on this side, please. I hope in the stillness, in those moments of silence, that you're like totally lost. You're no longer clinging, wanting, needing anything at all. Just lost. And certainly it might be a little achy as you begin to move your way back to center, and so go really slow. As you draw your hips back to square and keep your figure four legs. And then bring both feet back down onto your mat. And if you need to adjust your bum, feel centered through your spine. And your feet are about hip width apart. And crawl them in towards you a little bit closer, and then let your knees fall in towards each other. And so yes, getting lost, encouraging you and inviting you to let go of your wants and your needs. Whatever your mind interprets as your needs, it's relative. Subjective in the approach, this is what I need. And so we're letting that go, and we're just getting lost in some other space here. There's no rush, but when you're ready, bring your feet back together and take your right arm over your head like we started. Then go ahead and roll on to your right hand side. And so you're back in the fetal position. Draw your knees up in towards your chest. Okay, but lessen any grip in the ball of energy, and that is your body, and just let your head rest heavy into your bicep. And drawing us closer and closer to our infancy. When we're absorbing life like a sponge, being placed in a bucket of water. And before we started walking around thinking we knew these things, and relax here. And I believe this has flipped you on your mat. And so if we left any props behind that you're going to use your left hand into the mat, start to make your way around to a tabletop. And keep your head heavy, and then you can pull those props towards this end of your mat. And rather than turning yourself back around, and again, if it feels nice, you can move your hips a little bit from side to side. You love this practice without focus. It doesn't mean there's not going to be some drama or some dramatic moments, for sure, but without focus. Let's bring your left foot forward in between your hands, please. You may have learned from the first side anything you want to do. Big old pillow, blanket underneath your right knee, anything. The patella, the kneecap, can be a really sensitive area on the body, especially when you're putting the entire weight of your upper body down into it. And so as you get that set, walk both hands up onto your left thigh. And keep your chin low to your chest. A little or less strength, and we're not trying to stretch the body at all here. We're doing the exact opposite. We're releasing the muscles and getting deeper into the joints and through the connective tissue and the fascia. The heel of your front foot will help you balance. You're welcome to And let your gaze soften down, or if you're not fighting it, no need to fight the balance. You're welcome to close your eyes here. And it's going to be easy to recognize if you're holding this pose up in your shoulders. And the elbows softened by your sides, please. Let's be real, most of the time people get into this practice and you've never done anything like this before. This was never part of the PE curriculum. And so understand there can be a lot of things and that we're going to draw our minds through. We're going to drag our minds through mindfully. It's like being on that train looking out the window and watching, for a bit you're watching the city pass. And then you keep going and you're in nature and your train is going through the forest, and then all of a sudden you're back into the city. And so let your mind go through it and stay mindful in your approach. Attaching less, observing more. And stay with me last minute here. And chin to chest if you've been holding it up with your head. Hey, these things, you'll get them when you're supposed to get them, and so don't worry. Nice and slow, everybody. As you open your eyes, take your hands down onto your mat, please. Lots of feeling in this release, and you can slide your left foot back with your hips. And go slow. You can unroll your mat, take any props out and from underneath your right knee. You might feel good to open your mouth, let out a sigh. And keep the head heavy somehow. That creates some space in the chest. On your hands and knees, let's walk both knees over to the left side edge of your mat. And then roll down onto your outer right hip. And then we're going to set up in that sideways chair. So slide the heels out as you stack the left ankle on top. And so your legs are at a 90 degree, your knees in line with your hips, and then 90 degrees down your shins. And you start to come down onto your right elbow underneath your shoulder. You just slide the hand forward. If this is really gripping through your inner thighs, I should have told you this on the first side, and you can always put a little pillow or blanket in between your knees. And that'll help relax your top hip flexor. And then bring your left elbow onto the mat in line with your right. And you remember, it's going to suit us better to stay up on the forearms. And even if you feel like this is not about flexibility, this is in drawing ourselves into the target and compression and rotating around our trunk. And when you get your elbow set, release your tongue, and then you can let your head drop down. And you may notice in that one side of your body, it dramatically holds more tension, and more story, and more experiences in your life than the other. And by doing both of these styles, by doing both classes, from the morning practice into the evening practice, we're putting our specs out at the extremes. We're covering the entire spectrum, and so that you can dive deeper into your center and then watch yourself. It's not growing like there's something wrong. It's just the evolution of a mindful being. It's really what we're doing. There's nothing wrong with you the way that you were before this practice and the way that you're going to be after this practice. But in mindfulness and awareness, and we can always endlessly wake ourselves up even more. If you've been holding the head up, let it drop. One more minute in this shape, please. It might feel good to take a deeper breath here and let out a sigh. And gently coming out the way you came in, make your way back up to your left hand. And then start to make your way back up to your right hand. You swing your legs now back around in front of you. And we're going to release down onto our backs. And to feel the space and the neutrality through your spine. And let your shoulders come down. And let your legs release. And rest your hands onto your belly. Should feel good. I mentioned either last night or this morning the nothingness, which you may have found here right now. The nothingness. You know how you're constantly tethered into something in some way. Well, this process has a way of allowing you to be guided, but not being tethered to the teacher, to the instruction, and really finding the space of your own experience as it's going on inside of you. Take it nice and slow. Go ahead and bend your legs and so that you bring your feet flat onto the mat. And then you can cross your right ankle to your left thigh just above the knee. You walk your hips over towards the left side edge of your mat a bit. And then go ahead and roll your knees down to the right so you're on the inner edge of your left foot. And the weight of your right ankle on your left thigh. And shoulders stay flat, and you can reset the head. And close the eyes and give this gentle stretch down to your outer hip flexor. Mentioned something along the lines of your heart, your love or your compassion can always expand and to be greater and see what kind of being you are. And when you're no longer limiting yourself in your approach. When you no longer draw the lines and to put yourself into a box. You're willing to explore things like this outside of your comfort zone, perhaps. And final minute in this pose, really enjoy it. And go slowly, be gentle as you start to roll your hips back into the mat. And once your hips are flat, and you can bring your right foot back down onto the ground. And adjust your hips or your shoulders. And so you can feel that softness and the release, and then go ahead and let your legs go out straight once again. And then this time, bring your arms down by your sides, let your palms face up towards the sky. And feel all of the space. Take the deepest breath that you can. Fill your belly, fill your chest. Open your mouth, exhale to release all the air from your lungs. And without force, do 2 more like that. Slowly inhale. And feel your belly fill into your chest. Open mouth, exhale. And again, without force, take 1 more breath on your own. And when you exhale, exhale until your lungs are completely empty. And then bring your body here into complete stillness. In complete stillness, and with this amount of awareness, you're going to feel the tiniest sense of vibration. You're going to feel your heart beating in different parts of your body than just your chest. And you're going to feel. And when you feel things are going to come up, and when things come up, I encourage you to observe without judgment, and to let this practice roll with you in the coming minutes, hours, days, weeks. And what you're doing here now may end up serving you a year from now. All I can say is, having the practice up to this point, It allows us the opportunity to do what we're doing right now and supporting each other. So without knowing what's coming next, it seems like a relatively good place to be. Yeah, I hope your hearts are smiling tonight. I hope your minds are calm. And I hope you have a beautiful sleep, and I hope to see you all tomorrow morning and for our 10 a.m. practice. You reach out if you have any questions. And keep sharing, keep caring, everybody. And so much love. Namaste.